Welcome everyone. Welcome to my report on December's astrology, and we've got a lot that we're going to cover, so I hope you will, get your hot tea or coffee or whatever makes you happy and, sit down and get cozy, or I don't know, put this on your playlist and just listen to it while you're working or doing something productive, okay? But we've got a lot to cover. We're going to start off with the overview of the energy for December. And then we're going to get into what to expect for this month. Generally speaking, covering the main areas of life: love, romance, career, money, and, the collective, the world at large. And then we're going to get into the important dates, very meaty stuff. And then I will end with a spiritual homework assignment. So hopefully we can make the most out of these energies. Oh, and if you want more videos like this, you know what to do. I don't have to tell you, right? You guys know, this is YouTube, right? You gotta click come on, I'm filling the blank. We know what I'm gonna say. And definitely click these buttons if you feel like you're getting something good from this, because that helps me to know to keep going when you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Okay, let's just do a general overview for people who just want to get it in a nutshell, get the information, go, and, right? We gotta cater to the short attention spans on YouTube. They are abundant, right? Those of you who have more time, that's in the important dates portion, okay? But generally, the overview of this month is, I think that we are going to be dealing with themes having to do with abuse, misuse of authority, and taking your power back, and finding your own inner security and inner authority, even when it seems like what's going on outside of you isn't very secure, or, there's, like I said, a misuse or abuse of authority external to you. There will be finalities this month. We are obviously at the end of the year, and we're also closing out these eclipses that have been in Gemini and Scorpio. We are about to go into a shift of this quite significant with the nodes, the nodes have been in Gemini and Sagittarius. I think I said Scorpio earlier. If I did, forgive me. It is going into Scorpio. It has been in Sagittarius. So that's what we're shifting out of. And that's been quite significant over the last year and a half. And we're shifting into another year and a half of, a whole new set of energy. So, and we're also coming to the final of 3 squares that we've had this year involving Uranus. So, Saturn in Aquarius squaring Uranus. There have been 3 this year, and the last one of the 3 will occur this December. So again, this whole theme of finalities, closing things out, definitely getting a shift in the energies. And yes, that's not just with the nodes, but definitely putting a focus on a continuation, I will say, from last month of money, values. We're getting into a lot of Capricorn energy. Yes, we're in a lot of Sagittarius energy right now, but it's shifting into Capricorn energy as the month evolves. And so more continued themes of my money, your money, which we saw last month in Scorpio season. Pain points for this month are, I think, the unyielding restrictions that we've been dealing with on our individual freedom, and people getting, to the height of their frustration over these issues. Okay, what to expect in a nutshell for those of you who want to in and out. In terms of love and relationships, well, I think that we're going to be dealing with people who are very reserved in expressing how they feel. Very risk adverse, not willing to take a lot of risks in relationships. People who are looking at longevity, looking at the payoff of partnerships, looking for a mature, responsible partner, somebody who's in it for the long haul. And I think, on the dating front, like if you're single and dating, I think that people are kind of going to be going through their prospects like, who's going to add value to my life? And there could be more of a just transactional nature in relationships, whether we're talking about romantic, family. People can get very tit for tat, like, well, I gave you this, and what are you going to give me in return? And very, what am I getting out of it? And strategic, type of exchanges going on, which is not real lovey-dovey, is it? It is not, right? So be aware this month of users, these dynamics coming up of people becoming more aware of feeling used or wanting to use. I don't want to say we're dealing with gold diggers. Yes, of course, though, that's a possibility. But I think a lot of people are very concerned about what's adding value to their lives. Because we're also dealing with retrograde this month, there could be return of exes, or at least thinking about it. I'll talk more about that as we get into the important dates. Moving on to career and money. I believe that this is a month where, you know, the totalitarian fantasies that we've been witnessing on full display with the unending mandates, it seems, around the world, and people even just escalating them even further. Well, this is clashing with practicality and the sober realities, right? That guess what? Mandates are not laws. There's a difference. So we're getting into, you know, at least here in the United States, state lawsuits. And that's bringing this clash between, well, you have this little fantasy land that you just mandate us into oblivion. And isn't that nice? But back to reality land, where mandates are not laws, you didn't go through the process for getting that kind of leverage and authority over people. So let's take this into a court of law and let's figure out where this is going. And I don't think it's gonna bode well for the authoritarians, all right, the totalitarians and their fantasies, which is good for us, I think, in general. But we are still dealing with undeniable inflation scares. And, right, we've heard people in authority now just kind of nonchalantly, well, you know, inflation. I guess don't have a turkey for Thanksgiving. I mean, that's how you fix that. Like, really? Seriously? These people are saying this with a straight face, okay? But regardless of what they're saying, I think that many people collectively have gotten the memo that they need to become more frugal, all right? And I don't know that this is going to let up anytime soon, unfortunately. We are seeing volatility in the markets, more signs and indicators that there's rigging going on, rumors that the Federal Reserve is pumping and dumping Bitcoin. I mean, we've known about this with the stock market for a long time, and more or less rumors with the housing market and BlackRock artificially coming in and buying up, having access to resources and leverage to buy up properties and put people out of the housing market. And now we're seeing kind of these same dynamics going on with crypto. And so I don't think this is a time to take risks. I mean, yeah, like I'm into crypto. I'll just say this for the record. And I have been telling my viewers, get into crypto, get into crypto. But I've never told people, don't pay your bills and go get crypto, okay? And definitely with this energy, don't do it, all right? I mean, you don't have to be rich to get into crypto, by the way. You know, I think Bitcoin is at over 60, definitely 50,000 right now as I'm filming this. So you don't need $50,000 to buy a Bitcoin. You can buy it fractionally, right? You could get $5 worth of Bitcoin if you wanted to. And if that's all you can afford, then get something, do something, all right? But I would never, like if you're not in a position to even put $5 in, well, we need to have a talk if that's you. But that aside, I'm just going to say, you know, you don't put your rent money on any of this stuff because there's so much volatility. And I am hearing in the financial community and even in the astrological community that it's very likely this month of December, there's going to be a correction. And so on the job market, really seeing a lot of job opportunities coming up. In fact, today I just had somebody text me about a job, and I've had several people call me and email me completely unsolicited. I'm not asking. They're finding me, which I find amusing. So, you know, there's definitely demand for employing people. But again, is this going to be equivalent to more loss of liberty? Because how did this availability suddenly become, you know, a thing in the job market? Well, people, right, with the Great Resignation walked off, or because of the mandates got fired. And so if you're like me and you are not complying with these mandates, but you are in need of a job, I'd say, you know, the jobs are great for the grabbing right now. but I would not, I wouldn't get into an employment arrangement. If I were you, I would encourage any of you, if you can, to try to negotiate being a contractor, if at all possible. Then you are able to circumvent these employment mandates because you're not an employee, you're a contractor. You see what I'm saying? Try to negotiate that way. I just want to give a reminder, there's really not any easy money right now. Yes, there are people who are gambling, they're playing crypto like it's a casino, but the greatest gains are going to be for the people who are hodlers. Hold on for dear life, people, right? You're in it for the long haul. Definitely with all this Capricorn energy, that's what's getting rewarded. And also being more reserved, risk adverse with your personal finances. Okay, so what's happening in the world at large? Well, you know, you might have seen sex scandals. I talked about it during Scorpio season, and here we go again now with the Ghislaine Maxwell court case involving really, you know, the global elite pedophile sex ring, right? This is finally going to court. Very interesting because you see that case is being handled much differently by the media than we saw with Kyle Rittenhouse. That's not an accident. They don't really want people focused on that. They'd rather us fighting each other over race, ethnicity, and whatnot, even in a case involving 4 white men. All right, they're going to make that somehow into race, but you know, don't pay attention to Ghislaine Maxwell. Don't do it. That's the media for us, okay? And so we're also seeing at the same time that this is going on, worldwide protests are reaching an all-time high. And again, the revolution will not be televised, right? The only reason I know about this stuff is because I'm plugged into those people, you know, on social media, namely Twitter. By the way, if you want to follow me for political content, go to Twitter at warriorwoman212. And I share more stuff there politically than I do on this channel, okay? But we are seeing that as people are pushing back harder than ever, you are seeing in some areas, particularly Australia, the pushback from the authorities is even harder. I mean, look at what's going on with the Aborigines. We have reports coming out from the native people of Australia that they are being rounded up, put in basically concentration camp style quarantine wellness camps. You know, we've got nice verbiage for this ugly stuff, right? Where they are being forcibly, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so again, there's this thing going on, and we're going to talk more about that when we get into the important dates with the astrology as to energetically, why is this happening? This is an incredible fight that has just been escalating all year long and probably reaching a boiling point with the eclipse this month. But notice that with everything going on, for some people in authority or status who love authority, they love it, like, oh, daddy government, regulate me harder, you know, those kind of people. There's just always an excuse for lockdowns, always. It never ends. If it's not, you know, illness, it's then going to be climate change. It's always going to morph into something because that's just too convenient here for us to keep finding reasons to keep you locked down, right? So as we see this clamping down going on, continuing, worsening in some areas upon personal freedom, we're also seeing a clamping down of perception management, which is very Capricornian. Yeah, so like look at all this news coming out having to do with the metaverse, and we now have a new CEO running Twitter. And what is metaverse? It's about, you know, getting into an artificial reality where maybe you feel more in control than in your real reality, and maybe that will distract you from the fact that you're not actually free in your real reality, okay? And yes, with this new Twitter CEO, I'm already hearing reports that this guy's already clamping down on the information that can be shared on Twitter. So how much longer will Twitter be a free space? I've already got backup accounts over on gab.com and getter.com. Haven't managed those or maintained those as much as I have Twitter. But wow, what's going on with social media and the perception management. I think, you know, we're just continuing to see things worsen on that front. There's also an increased awareness with all of this that I mentioned, an increased awareness of our need to cultivate more self-sufficiency. Sober, very sober. Okay, let's get into some important dates, starting with the very first. And I am filming this on the 1st, by the way. So the 1st of December, we are dealing with Neptune finally going direct in Pisces. Okay, so this is a nice energy where you know, it's very spiritual, and it's helping us, those of us who really want to tap into the things of the spirit, you know, empathically, intuitively, are able to do it a little bit easier now. And this could be a very revelatory time with Neptune now direct. And it has been retrograde for several months. And so a lot of us having to kind of release some Neptunian fogs in our lives, or Neptuning out, and needing to like look at, where have I not been seeing things clearly? Where have I been deluded within myself? Hopefully now we're coming into Neptune direct in Pisces from a more spiritual angle that is actually, you know, benefiting us and getting forward movement with our wishes and revelations. Now on the 4th, we've got the solar eclipse in Sagittarius. Big stuff. If you didn't miss my video that I put out on the eclipses for November and December, might want to check it out. In fact, I'll put it at the very end of this one. So if you want to continue watching, you could just click on through. But yeah, I do card draws in that reading. So if you want to know specific to your sign, how, you know, the lunar eclipse of November versus the solar eclipse of December is going to impact your sign, I've got that over there in that reading. But collectively, you know, with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius, it is a new moon. It is about new beginnings, okay? And a lot of times new beginnings are there because you've ended something that's made way for something to start anew. And so perhaps, yes, there is a letting go of something from your past. Maybe when we're talking about Sagittarius, we could be talking about beliefs, something you put your faith into, maybe blind faith, okay? But you no longer believe that way anymore. Maybe because of, you know, the last year and a half of these eclipses in Gemini and Sagittarius. What you thought you knew, what you thought you believed, or you put your blind faith into, you realize now that doesn't quite line up with the facts. That's not lining up with reality. And so this shift in your beliefs is really making a way for you to break away from any stagnation and any limiting beliefs that you've had, even if these were, self-imposed beliefs or beliefs coming from outside of you. Maybe other people, maybe the authorities believe something. Maybe they believe you should sit your ass at home and, you know, not get a paycheck. You know, maybe they believe you should get one of these, you know. Maybe you think, you know, I've done my own research and I know that is not in my best interest. So I no longer believe that I'm going to blindly submit to these limitations being put on my life. Okay, it could, right? I think for a lot of people are coming to that conclusion, particularly with all the other energies I'm about to get into. But bottom line, however it's playing out for you, right? Because this is hitting different houses for different people, given your unique natal astrology, all right? But however it's coming out, you know, in that house, in that area of life, the bottom line is that you're looking at personal expansion. You're wanting to bring more excitement into your life. You're wanting to break past any blockages you've had in terms of getting that. So there is some finality here that's making way for permanent changes in your life, having to do with your beliefs. Maybe deciding within yourself that you're going to adopt a stronger sense of adventure again, in different areas of your life. It'll be different for different people, depending on your natal chart. But the 6th through the 8th, Mars is going to be in Scorpio, where it's at home, and yet it is squaring Jupiter in Aquarius. So, again, another sign of ending. Something is intentionally being put to an end. Mars in Scorpio, very assertive, very aggressive energy, also very sexual. Whoa, yeah. And then, you know, but with it squaring Jupiter, it's like there's some difficulty here in getting expansion. Yes, maybe concerning the collective, maybe concerning social media, friend groups, socializing. I think actually this square, though it's challenging people, maybe they're challenging right back again over the issues that I've mentioned before of, I'm gonna assert myself. You're not gonna stop me, you know, and the collective is feeling some difficulty, but I think they're doing it anyway, okay? On the 9th, Venus is conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. And so again, this brings about what I mentioned earlier in relationships taking on a more transactional nature. People have an agenda. Big surprise, right? Everybody wants something out of something, okay? But it's now more out in the open, and people's self-interest is becoming more apparent and undeniable. Yes, be on the lookout for users, of course, usury type of relationships. And I think even in terms of people who are in authority, because Pluto and Capricorn is signifying some change, tension, drama going on with people in authority, okay? And so even this, think about it, this messaging that we've been getting for the last nearly 2 years about how it's for your safety. It sounds very loving on the surface, and you're not a loving person if you're not going along with this for your safety and their safety and everybody's safety, right? It sounds so loving, but we have to know from history that it's for your safety is one of the favorite lines of rationale used by tyrants historically to get away with doing things that they ordinarily wouldn't get away with. So, you know, again, pay attention to people veiling their controlling tendencies with this air of protection. It's because I care about you, right? That I'm controlling you. Think about that. Think about it. All right, moving on to the 13th, Mars in Sagittarius. This is really, in my opinion, adding more oomph to the solar eclipse in Sagittarius that we're having on the 4th. And it just gives us more reason to abandon any previous beliefs that have held us back and giving us more of a willingness than ever to conquer routines that have confined us. We are more motivated than earlier this year to go out and find adventure, to have some fun, even if those ideals are in some way challenging other people. But why? Because you got out of your house, because you dare to show up without you know what, and a you know what, like, oh, God forbid you think for yourself and you make a decision that's right and fitting for you. How dare you, you know? But yeah, and maybe in months prior or even last year, you would have been more willing to comply with these things, but it's kind of an enough isn't enough energy that I see with Mars and Sagittarius on top of this solar eclipse activity in Sagittarius. We've also, on that same day of the 13th, we have Mercury entering Capricorn. So while there's more of a boldness, I think, with all the Sagittarius energy that I mentioned, having Mercury in Capricorn is going to help us to not bite off more than we can chew. It's going to help us to be kind of realistic practical, down to earth. Yeah, I think the actions are going to be motivated by ambitions to break free of stuff, to cut loose of things that have limited us. If something is out there or way out of our reach, we're probably going to get more organized and strategic in terms of effectively tackling that. It's going to be a no-nonsense approach either. That is going to be necessary. So for some people, it's going to come across like, no, I am not. No, I am not complying. No, I am not doing that. No, like, not sorry. Don't care about your feelings. This is the way it is, Just be careful about coldness in communications or rigidity in thinking. And again, you're going to have to use your own judgment here. You're going to have to be spirit-led and apply that as it applies to you, okay? Because some of you need to just not apologize to people. You need to do what you know is right for you and boss up like the Capricorn and be like, and communicate that, no, this is what's right, and sorry, not sorry, but this is what I'm doing with my life. You can go run your life at, if you want to comply with that, you want to comply with that over there and that over there, you go right ahead, but this is right what I'm doing. So it is, by the way, just as a side note, a great energy for financial business planning and even doing some strategizing if you're into investments. Really good on the money front, okay? Personal finance, stuff like that, and professional life. Really good to think through things, maybe getting a game plan for next year and what you're doing with your money, your career, your investments. Great energy for that. On the 18th, we've got a full moon in Gemini. This is going to be great for helping with the way that you're communicating yourself. Well, maybe opening up more emotionally, even though, yes, we're still dealing with Venus retrograde in Capricorn, where people are really self-reserved. Okay, well, with this full moon on the 18th, if you need to open up about something on an emotional level, this is going to help with that. And maybe let something out. Again, though, because it's in an air sign, Gemini, and, the Capricorn energy going on here, it might, whatever is let out on an emotional level, might come out in a more rational way. Even though this is definitely an emotional energy, there's more rationale going on in expressing it. This could also, by the way, bring about some kind of release, collective release of information, data, and that could trigger some kind of emotional response out of people collectively because perhaps I'm hearing information leaks. I'm hearing information leaks, and I don't know why I'm being brought back to that Ghislaine Maxwell case. They're trying to keep a tight wraps on what is coming out of that courtroom. The judge has made some decisions, from what I heard, to ensure that okay, sorry, I was interrupted there. I'm getting a sense like with that judge has made some rulings or determinations that they're going to try to keep a tight control over some of the information that leaks out, which I find kind of laughable. It's like the way he worded it was like, or whoever the judge is that's in charge of it, they don't want to get some kind of public outrage. I think it might leak out anyway. Just putting it out there. We'll see what happens. Okay. On the 19th, here we go, Venus retrograde Capricorn, conjunct Pluto. Pluto here packs a punch. It really does. I think globally, this is where these sexual scandals having to do with these elite pedophile rings, again, being brought up. Yes, again, another layer of energy showing why there might be a market correction. We might be also looking at continued food shortages, market liquidity problems, basically people having difficult time, a difficult time getting their tangible needs met. I've been saying for the last year and a half, stockpile, buy crypto. People who have not been heeding the warnings, people who have not been preparing. Whoa, whoa. Personally, this Venus retrograde in Capricorn conjunct Pluto on the 19th, that's what's really bringing in a lot of these people kind of trying to keep their feelings under wraps and looking at relationships in an almost transactional way. What am I getting out of it? People really looking at what is adding value to my life, making other people earn access to a relationship, basically pre-qualifying romantic prospects, looking for serious partners, not having time for games and love, that kind of thing. And at worst, it's just bringing out the users, right? Like either you have people getting more into this mindset of I'm just going to get mine, while at the same time it's just becoming more blatantly obvious that the self-interest that people have. And so I think there's a growing awareness with this energy of commitments that are either people don't want to get into a commitment because they're risk adverse, they're afraid of being exploited, or they're afraid of responsibility, or they're getting into a commitment based on status, social climbing. None of this has, by the way, anything to do with love at all, at all. Where's love here? Venus in Capricorn, I'm sorry to say, not very sexy, not sexy at all. And so watch out for exploitive people, people who view others as resources that need to be tapped. All right, another interruption. I don't know what it is. This might be an energy. I don't know, because, and hopefully I edited it out, okay, by the time you see it, but I had an interruption with somebody deciding that they're going to get the leaf blower out. Good God. Okay. And I'm trying to now, with these interruptions and these distractions, I'm trying to understand if there's any relevance here. If it comes to me, I'll tell you. Okay. Let's get on with it. Basically what I was saying about Venus retrograde in Capricorn, you know, dealing with or having a raised awareness towards those who look at people as merely resources to be tapped, supply, right? Rather than, you know, looking at people as expressions of the divine, looking at relationships as spiritual growth, spiritual opportunities. With this retrograde, yes, as always, anytime there's a Venus retrograde, we could be looking at return of exes, or at least thinking about the exes. But again, if you're thinking back at this person, or if somebody comes back, it's going to be within the context of, do we share values here? What is this person adding to my life that I value? And it's real practical. It's kind of the nuts and bolts of, is this going to work? And that's just not very sexy. It's not very romantic, I'm sorry to say, but whoever makes the cut, yeah, that's a good one. All right, that's a keeper. Okay, and so then also on the 19th, we have Chiron direct in Aries. It has been retrograde. So yes, during the past few months, as it's been retrograde, having to look at issues of self-worth, and in matters of individuality, you know, those are issues that are now, you know, being highlighted, and hopefully having come out of that retrograde, now we have more of a sharpened ability to see vulnerability as a strength. Right? Obviously, there are relationships where that's going to be exploited, but when we can give vulnerability in relationships where it's not, then it is helpful, not hurtful. There's a lot of growing up. By the way, I did a private reading today, and I was helping a client with this energy. We are all collectively dealing with Chiron and Aries, right? but particularly the 70s babies like myself and like the client I had today, those of us born during the 70s, we have that in our natal chart. So we're really feeling it, really feeling it. And then, you know, depending on where it's hitting your natal chart, which house, you know, that would tell more about how it's playing out for you. But I just got to say, like I told this client today, you know, I think as we work through healing these Chiron and Aries issues that us 70s babies have, you get less offended by people when people come in and they don't make you feel valued, because maybe they don't know their own value. They have their own self-worth issues that they're working through. Well, because you've done the work, you no longer are offended by that you're just like, you know, that's cute, but yeah, I need you to put more into this relationship. Like, that's not going to be enough. And if you're not able to do it, somebody else will, right? Because I worked through my self-worth values. I know that I deserve, right? So yeah, hopefully there's been some work done for you in the last few months, but obviously we're dealing with a lot of people collectively who are not doing self-awareness healing work. And so beware of that when you're around people that they haven't gotten to this place of enlightenment, of understanding that vulnerability can be a strength in relationships. And when it is, you know, it's really helpful. It doesn't have to be hurtful. Moving on to the 21st, Sun in Capricorn. Well, as I heard one astrologer say, shit is going to get real with this. I'm definitely putting a spotlight on government authorities who are just conveniently, you know, demanding obedience to rules that are not laws, right? Mandates, not laws again, but just demanding the obedience, right? So I am seeing with this energy of there being a relentlessness to hold subjects accountable to arbitrary and unreasonable limitations being put on their individual liberties, all in the name of we're protecting you, aka controlling you, Capricorn. Yeah. And by the way, I need more tax money using you, and then I'll give it back to you and tell you that it came from me, even though it came from you, right? Government has no money apart from taxpayers, right? So that's your money that they give back to you, and then make it like that's their money they gave to you, right? It's all this usury going on, leveraging, exploitation. So I would say, you know, also with this energy, Sun in Capricorn on the 21st, focus on the long haul, look at the long term. I mean, you know, how much longer can you go on with this kind of dynamic, especially if you're looking at an abuse, misuse of power? How much longer can you continue on this way? I mean, I know some people are, their status, they love big daddy government, you know, they do. But I mean, let's get real. Like, how long can you deal with this? All right. Because I do see that, at least from the authorities, there seems to be an unyielding commitment towards building and fortifying empires. Yeah, the World Economic Forum, anyone? You know, the reset, economic reset, anyone? Yeah, I'm talking about that. All right, on the 22nd, we've got the North Node entering into Taurus. And this is quite the shift, because the North Node for the last year and a half has been in Gemini. So with this shift, it's really pushing us to improve our ability to be self-reliant. And, you know, what we had over the last year of the nodes, the North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius, well, enough of that. Enough information gathering, belief shifting. Now it's time to say, okay, what do I do, Taurus? What do I do with what I now know to be true and what I now believe to be true? What do I do with the facts that I know that maybe proved some of my old beliefs to be false? And I no longer believe in that stuff because I've come into a higher knowledge that has confronted my beliefs, shifted my beliefs. I've released belief, made way for new beliefs, and I'm stepping into more of an ambitious side within myself, a more confident, more bold sense within myself, because I know what I know what I know, okay? But how do I do this that I know to be true or to be my path? How do I fortify myself? There is an increasing focus on finding a stronger sense of stability within oneself and a stronger sense of security within oneself, despite external circumstances that are unstable and insecure. So this is, I think, over the next year and a half, and we're stepping into it this month, where people are going to have to grow in this, like developing, gaining more internal stability in this unstable world, not looking so much on Big Daddy government to come rescue me and come be my daddy and regulate me harder. You know what I'm saying? How do I self-regulate so that I can provide stability when nobody else is? Well, deep stuff. And this is going to bring the South Node into Scorpio, okay? And you know, Scorpio is a lot about other people's money, taxes. Yeah, there's kind of a government vibe to it as well. But you know, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm just going to be straight up with you. Some of you do not want to hear what I'm about to say. Oh well, let's just deal with it like grown adults, shall we? There's going to be a release of heavy, heavy emotional burdens. Shadow selves, the shadows within other people, the lies, believing lies. Maybe because you wanted to believe the story, you trusted people because you wanted to believe that you could trust them, not because they deserved it, not because they earned it, but because it was part of your little fantasy or false paradigm that you could just blindly trust people and that they're going to spoon feed you the truth, right, in the media. Oh, why would they lie? You know what? I have to go do my own research and find out. Yes, you do. What I have to do might be my own fact checker. Yes, you do. Too much work, you know, intellectual laziness, maybe. Whatever the dark shadow aspect is, you're now having to release it, okay? And within other people, realizing, oh my God, people really do, with Scorpio, these power plays, these dynamics, trying to exploit people, okay? To get to possess things that maybe are not theirs to possess, okay? But it's also getting to a place where you're seeing truth, not as your enemy anymore, but as an ally to self-awareness and self-empowerment. This is no longer about, you know, this is releasing the empowering, right, the media and the government, the authorities, and you know, putting them in charge of your life and putting them in charge of the information that they're going to give you and what you're going to believe about it, allowing them to shape your beliefs and your perception and all that. No more. This is you putting more of that power back to self with that North Node in Taurus, okay? My biggest concern, and this is the ugly part that I was mentioning earlier, is that I have long said on this channel that I am concerned that there is a culling that is going on. Depopulation program, okay? And some of you who are like so innocent, oh, they would never do that. I don't know what you're talking about. What a conspiracy theory. You're just fear-mongering. But no, go read history. Look up the word democide. Democide. It has happened many times in history. That is when governments, it's death by government. It's when governments try to thin out the herd, the flock. Why? Because people are easy to manage when there's less of them to manage, okay? And so, yes, Scorpio is about death, and we have it now in the South Node. So I am concerned that we're going to be seeing a lot more deaths. I am sorry to say, and it is because of this thing going on. That I think we're going to have more of that over the next year and a half. And definitely the people who have been whistleblowers to Big Pharma. God, I hope I don't get, you know what, on this video, but I'm really getting out there saying stuff, okay? But they've been indicating people who are totally, you know, compliant with all of those, you know, 3 years max, 3 years max, okay? So that definitely, this astrology falls within that timeline that there would be a culling during this next year and a half. You will see a lot of people go. I'm sorry to say. Scorpio is also about the occult, secrets, things hidden coming out, or having to release, like, you know what? We're done with the secrecy. We're done with all of this stuff that's being happened in hiding behind closed doors. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, that type of stuff. Oh. Let it go. Let it go. All right, moving on to the 24th. Saturn in Aquarius squaring Uranus retrograde in Taurus. Well, this is the third time this has happened this year, or will be. We had this happen on February 17th and also June 14th. And this is, again, this clash, this very revolutionary, rebellious of humanity, Aquarius, dealing with a limitation, restriction of Saturn, the authorities, and squaring Uranus. There is some kind of trying to get free of it. It's a challenge. It's a difficulty. It is I'm not going to conform. Saturn is what Uranus is telling Saturn. I will not comply. I will not conform. And it's been an escalation all throughout this year, particularly if you look at all the surrounding energies, that this third hit is occurring in the midst of eclipse season and in the midst of the nodes changing. It's explosive. It really is. So this is very revolutionary, revolting type of energy where freedom, individual liberties, is clashing with established societal structures and authorities. Individuality is clashing with conformity. The rules, even I think the energy is causing the rules to feel even more imposing than before, and people are getting less and less tolerable. Right? Like you would put the same rules in 2020 and people will comply and go along and, oh, it's just 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then now you're at 3 boosters and, get a jab or lose your job, this type of thing. And now people are like, oh, hold up, wait a second here. You done went too far with this. You done lost your mind. And now I'm about to lose my mind. That's kind of the way it's gone, the way it's escalated. Okay, so we could see very sudden, unexpected upheavals and revolts coming. I mean, frankly, the authorities should have seen it coming, all right? And honestly, I think that's why they keep up in the ante, because they're trying to hold people back. But the reality is that the more blockages and limitations are put in place, the more the frustration mounts. It's a powder keg, is that the word I'm looking for? It's at an all-time high, okay? And yes, what was previously not questioned is now being questioned vehemently, okay? This is an energy that does feel very oppressive to a lot of people, because it is. It is oppressive, all right? And so I will say the higher purpose of this energy is to push you to assert yourself as the divinely guided spirit that you are, who has a connection with the divine, with the creator, right? And you don't need a mediary. You don't need an overlord. You can go right to creator and you can decide within yourself what is right and fitting for your life, your destiny. That's the higher purpose and plan. So when you feel that pressure, God's allowing it because God's trying to get you to step into your divine authority and to tap into your divine intuition. Finally, on the 28th, we've got Jupiter in Pisces, and love this. I'm so excited about this. My daughter, who is a Pisces, and I've got like 4 Pisces placements in my chart, we're both like so excited about Jupiter and Pisces, all right? Going to be lovely energy if you have any Pisces placements. But yeah, this is bringing about a growth in faith and heightened psychic sensitivities as well. Like if you are a light worker, you do spiritual work, this is going to be a fantastic time where your abilities you are very much going to be improved upon, and a lot more empathic than usual as well. Even if you're not a light worker, you're just in your day-to-day life, feeling more empathic towards those around you and experiencing that, receiving that from other people as well. And pay attention to your dreams and visions during this time, getting into January, the end of December and into January. You're definitely probably going to be getting more divine downloads, so pay attention to that. And it could be signs, synchronicities, all manner of things. The only caution I want to give with that energy is that there could be more people who are getting into this kind of shadow energy of imagining illnesses, right? Hypochondria, of, you know, because they want attention seeking. Or it could also be some very surreal symptoms of illness that could be very legitimate, but it's like, this is not naturally occurring. And again, I go back to this South Node in Scorpio energy of this culling, right? Of people having some symptoms, health issues that are just surreal. And it's like, why is a 14-year-old, why are 14-year-old athletes dropping dead out on, you know, the field while playing a game? Why do we keep seeing these people who are at the prime of their health? Just doesn't make any sense. Not naturally occurring, surreal. And I'm also seeing another shadow aspect of this is escapism, where you have a segment of the population who is just Neptuning out of reality, despite Mercury and the Sun in Capricorn here telling them not to. Why? Because what we're dealing with collectively is a shattering of a false paradigm that you can just leave other people in charge to run your life and order you around and tell you when it's safe to come outside and tell you what to put in your body, while they have no liability whatsoever for damages if something goes wrong. You know, this kind of mindless, brainless following like a sheep. Well, we've been getting reality checks over the last year and a half with those nodes that's a false reality. It's a false paradigm. It's been shattered. It's come apart. Okay. And people who cannot deal with the reality checks, and I'm sorry if some of them are getting the reality checks, seeing that some of the people who got that are now, right, hard pill to swallow. And so maybe instead I just get into escapism through drugs, alcohol, or I la 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 la. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk to people, right? Like I had a girlfriend the other day tell me, why is it that every time I start talking about this stuff to some of my friends, they've got to go. They've got to get off the phone. They can't talk about it. Oops, got an interruption. Have to get back to work. Can't have that conversation. Why? Escapism. Neptuning out. Watch out for it. All right, let me leave you off with a bit of a homework assignment for the month so that hopefully we can make the best of it. All right. I think this is a month to think on these things, meditate on these things of, you know, what each of us individually can do to improve our social currency. Yeah, it's something that I've been talking about on this channel. I'm definitely, for myself, looking at probably January, February, I'm going to try to do a local meetup for people who are awake politically, spiritually, people who want to talk about crypto, talk about stockpiling, talk about, you know, alternative health and healing, things like that. Okay. Basically where you are creating something in your local community, a level of resourcefulness, self-reliance, self-sufficiency, this type of thing. And you're not so dependent on these virtual relationships like metaverse, where frankly, you can't call upon these people if you are really in a difficult situation. You can't share resources. You can't barter necessarily. There's a limit to these virtual relationships. Well, how can you strengthen that area of your life where maybe you don't have good social currency because you've been, you know, in the house having these virtual relationships that only get you so far? Think on this during this month, and really not just think about it, but take action to back up those thoughts and those beliefs. All right. Also, what can you do to embody more inner security despite growing insecurity in the world? How can you not allow these things that are breaking down that maybe you trusted in, the media, the government, the authorities, whomever, your job, and now you realize that, oh, these people are self-interested. And they weren't really looking out for me. They were looking out for themselves. And gee, that doesn't quite work out too well for me now, does that? So how do you structure your life in a way that makes you less vulnerable, because you're in less of a dependency role, depending on things that you really can't, they're not going to stabilize you. You can't bet your life on it, right? They're in flux. How do you transcend that? And I feel like reminding people, you know, these rules are only as good as the people who follow them. I mean, the moment you decide you're not following that rule or that mandate, because guess what? It ain't the law. Well, that's all out the window. That's all out the window. And so I think a reminder, Aquarius here, reminding you that wisdom knows when to follow the rules and when to break them, right? Capricorn is going to follow the rules because, I mean, that's status quo. And we're, Capricorn has a tendency to just follow the rules for the sake of following the rules. But Aquarius is like, yeah, that's not wise, okay? Know when to follow the rules, know when to break them. That's wisdom. And I also want to encourage you to see yourself as a free human who is qualified to be the master of your own destiny. Really want to encourage that out of all my viewers. Please, this month, so much as you can help it, pray and meditate on these things, especially pray and meditate on what and who ultimately serves your highest good, and ally yourself with those things. Thanks for watching, and until next time, wishing you all the best. Be blessed.